The Thumblatch sets that we see come through the shop here at Gilded Salvage have a variety of styles. They're all very interesting on the guest side, and most of the ones that we see are like the three pictured here. I'd like to show everybody how a Thumblatch door set works. It's an exterior door handle that has a lot of hidden parts, and most homeowners wouldn't have had to deal with this. No service, no maintenance needed. A lot of these are close to 100 years old and still working great. But a few things wear out, and we've had people mangle them trying to get them out of doors. So I would like to show you first an overall of what it looks like, which you're familiar with for your door, and then the components, and then how to take it out, and then a couple pointers about how to put it back in. So this is the, as if it's installed in the door. We've cut the style off, but it's got the thumb latch, which operates the latch with the thumb. That's why we call it a thumb latch. It has a mortise lock here, which means that it's tucked into a mortise cut into the door, and then a cylinder lock, which is worked with a flat key to operate the deadbolt portion. On the inside of the door, you'll find usually very, very modest. The outsides were for guests and the insides were just for the homeowners. So it's usually a simple doorknob which operates the latch, and then on what we call a night latch, it's operating the deadbolt from inside without a key. So what you don't see are all the parts that kind of tangle it up together, and also the really intricate, clever method of keeping a doorknob on when you're not going through the door to another doorknob. So let me show you the components first. So some of the things to be aware of when you're doing the removal is how these pieces function together and how they're fastened, because some of these are pretty tricky to get out. They're simple, it's just that it's mysterious. It's hidden in the door. So I'm going to show you the pieces without being in the door. The lever has an extension on it that's fitting inside the door. It's hooking up with the bottom of the mortise lock here. This will push up and it'll actuate the latch. You can remove the single beauty screws on the front, but you'll also have to take out the bolts that are coming from the back side. And if it doesn't pull straight out, just lift up a little bit on the thumb latch part. It might be that this is kind of just touching in contact with the lock, so you should be able to pull that off easily enough. The cylinder lock is another area that people kind of fumble on and can really damage the internal parts if you're trying to force it. The cylinder lock has very fine threads that go into the case, and in order to keep it from turning when you're using your flat key, there's a set system that it uses a bolt coming from the face of the lock. It might be one bolt and it might be two bolts, and I'll explain the difference a little bit. A single bolt sometimes is reverse thread, and it only takes about a half a turn in order to loosen it up enough so that you can unscrew. It's just backing off on something that's fitting into a groove. Let me move this and show you. That's fitting into a groove. It could be in a couple different positions on your lock, so it just keeps it from turning. So you just want to back it off a little bit, try to turn the lock. If it's not working, go the other direction with the screw. If there are if there are two bolts, only loosen the one that's on the side that has the cylinder lock. The other one is keeping a disc in place on the mortise lock that's for the inside, the night latch side. And so if you loosen both of them, that could get loose and drop into the lock. It's not going to damage it, but it's just easier to keep all the parts together. You don't need to take it out to remove the mortise lock. The doorknob also has a kind of hidden mechanism to hold on a doorknob that's only on one side of the door. It doesn't go through to another knob, but it has to stay in the door, be able to turn, and yet not pull off in somebody's hand. So that uses, they're usually threaded on, so you can loosen the set screw and start backing off your doorknob, unthreading it, and then you'll see that there's a little stub showing through your door of threaded spindle. So once you get the doorknob off, you're going to pull on this and it's not going to do anything because it's actually in two pieces. This one happens to have a little piece that holds it in place, but most of them are just slid together. It's in two pieces so that you can fit one half through, I'm going to pick up the mortise lock and show you that where the spindle goes through, this even has a little recess for it. So if you turn around and look at the back, put this side through with a little bent tab, pull back on it, and if I'm pushing down, it's not going to pull out. So what keeps it in the down position is when I slide on the other half, make sure that the thread edges are outside, slide in the other half, and then, sorry, it's being a little difficult right now, but once that's together and once the doorknob is turned on with the set screw, it's not going anywhere. So this is called a split spindle. This one has been used for years and years and years. This needs to be replaced, and I will replace it with a reproduction. You can see that through here there's a big section of the threads that have been sheared off, worn off, most likely because when somebody is trying to fix a loose knob, what they do is just tighten the set screw. But you should be aware that when this gets screwed on, if you put the set screw in, if you remember where the split is, and if you put the set screw so it lines up with the split, when it tightens the screw, it'll open this just slightly and it makes it even sturdier on there. So otherwise, if you end up on a corner with the set screw, you're going to wear that thread off. So that's the most common reason that people need to bring in a lock. The thumb latches work in very similar fashion to each other, at least the ones from this time period, from the 1880s, but from about 1900 to 1940 is when we see them. But if you're bringing in any parts of them to get replaced or repaired, it's best to bring in as many pieces as you can. There are so many different dimensions, and if you need to find a replacement part, it's best to know the minimal amount of recutting on your door, or hopefully find an exact match. So the things that will vary are the length of the faceplate and the width, also the thickness, the dimension of the case itself, the setback, the distance from the middle of the doorknob to the front, also the distance from the doorknob to the cylinder lock, and then on the other side from the doorknob to the night latch, and then the mounting bolts too for the thumb latch. So as many pieces as you can bring in would be very helpful. I think that you'll find that you understand your lock better, and I think you'll also find that replacement or repair goes quite smoothly.